Vanguard rides again. Welcome back to Adventures in Bad Taste, and it's been a while since I filmed a video like this, but we've been trying to set things up, having a bit of a creative shift. There'll be more videos like this in the future of me just discussing ramblings that came to my brain. I promise they won't be that random. Can't promise too hard. I'm a very random guy. I'm oh so random, like the humor was in the 2010s. But anyways, today I don't want to waste too much of your time, so we'll get right into it. I had to hydrate there. Gotta stay hydrated, folks. It's hot out there. It's hot outside. Summertime. Recently I saw the Barbie movie with a couple of my friends. And it was quite frustrating. It was a very frustrating movie. And this is not only because of the whole, the usual suspects, wokeism, or, the fact that it was a girly movie or any of that kind of stuff. And I'm wearing pink right now as to keep with the theme. But it was frustrating because, the way I approach movies, and even books sometimes, but books, because I really enjoy reading, I have a little less patience with. So if a book is really bad, I will probably stop. I'll try, and if I can't do it, I'm almost halfway, I will just stop reading that shit. I just cannot read a bad book. It's hard. It takes a lot more energy, mental energy, to do that. But the thing is, and I gotta stop saying I'm always doing that shit. The thing is, when it comes to movies, I look at movies in parts, there'll be parts of a movie that are bad and parts of it that are good. There'll be ideas in a movie that I thought were great, but maybe the execution wasn't perfect, or sometimes the visuals of a movie will be amazing, but the plot is, a little lacking, and maybe the characterization isn't that good. Barbie was frustrating because it was very good and very bad at the same time, which still makes it a decent watch. I'd probably watch it again, even though it was frustrating. And the thing is, like I said, it wasn't even frustrating because of any of the feminist bullshit that they tried to seep in there. If anything, I feel like one of the ways to improve the movie could have been having a more coherent message, because the plot of Barbie is really weird. I'll start with the things I liked about the movie. Margot Robbie is very attractive. That's one of the things I liked about the movie. She's a very attractive woman, and just seeing her on screen in all those outfits were nice. It's a nice little thing. It's nice to have those things in a time in which beauty is regarded as the worst possible thing on the planet, right? And even Ryan Gosling, I'm not trying to sound like I played for the other team or anything, but Ryan Gosling is a decent looking guy. I've never really appreciated how decent looking he is. Because I guess I didn't watch a lot of his movies, but as I was watching Barbie, his characterization and everything, I was like, this guy, I can understand why he's such a heartthrob now. So right away, the visuals, decent looking people. The visuals are nice. I really like when movies have very what's the word I'm looking for? Very fanciful, kind of fantastic imagery, not realistic. I like those kind of things. And Barbie had a lot of that. And recently I heard that they didn't even use CGI for a good chunk of it. So that's amazing in my opinion too. So yeah, set design, all that stuff, amazing. Color coordination, everything was good in that regards, right? The jokes landed. A lot of the humor was pretty good in the film. I enjoyed that part of it too. The humor was great. What else? What else did I like beyond the humor and the visuals? The plot is decent up to a point. It falls apart, and that's going to be the chunk of the review where I talk about the bad stuff. The plot is good up until I think it's the fourth act or something, where everything falls apart because they're trying too hard to push this message, and it messes up. The humor and everything, the chemistry between the characters, all good stuff. And there were some interesting ideas in this movie that were pretty good that I'll get to later, right? But then the movie falls apart because basically, spoilers here, Barbie goes to the real world, and in the real world, this is where the real plot happens, where the real plot kicks in. She goes to the real world because she's been having like these existential thoughts, like about death and shit like that, and it's affecting her, and she's gonna become less perfect. So she goes to Barbie world to fix this problem, she meets the person who, basically the Barbies kind of have this fast and loose approach to the way the world works, where it's like the Barbies in Barbie Land are kind of like avatars for Barbies in real life. So like whatever Barbie you own exists in Barbie Land. So the person who owned that Barbie, they were affecting the Barbie because of the connection between her and her toy, the Barbie in Margot Robbie. Because that's another thing in the movie. Everyone's a Barbie. Everyone in Barbie Land is a Barbie. They all have the same name, and every Ken's a Ken. They all have the same name. There are different types of Kens. There's maybe like businessman Ken, or 80s disco Barbie. There's different types. So anyways, the more I think about it, this film has a very similar plot to the Lego movie, which is to be expected, I guess. So Barbie goes to the real world. She meets her owner or whatever, and then Ken, he sees how the real world, man's world, as we'll call it, like he sees how it has such a masculine influence, and in Barbie Land, all the Kens are like almost subservient to the Barbies, just as they are in the actual line. They're accessories for the Barbie. So like before this, he didn't know that men had like a place in the world. So he kind of gets touched by this. He's like, whoa, like this is crazy, and it leads to this very beautiful, like funny montage of Ryan Gosling just like walking around like nodding his head and shit, and his mind is getting blown. And like he goes to a gym, and these guys are like, hey bro, like acting like super masculine, and he's just like, anyways, Ken goes back, he leaves, Barbie gets taken by Mattel. I'm not even going to talk about the rest of the plot, because the rest of it doesn't even matter. Now this is where the movie starts to fall apart. So Ken goes back to Barbie Land, and Barbie's off in the real world doing, whatever, all sorts of goofy hijinks, right, chase scenes and all that bullshit. And when she comes back to Barbie Land with the other two, with her owner and her owner's daughter, which another really bad part of the movie, oh my god, there was this girl in the movie that was supposed to be, I guess, like a stand-in for, I'm an educated woman. She's like this high school girl, and you could imagine all the goofy shit she was saying, like just like one of those most silly parts of this movie that I thought was very, very, very dumb was Barbie appears, and the girl gives her this like long rant about how she's the reason for all, like, it's like, oh, you're the cause for like consumerism and women having body issues and all this kind of silly stuff, and I'm just like, like, it's like there's the way people look at problems, complex problems in the world, and then try to like simplify them to these like very simplistic, almost childlike building block things. I don't know how to explain this in a way that makes sense, but it's like okay, women have body issues, right? Barbie, this fucking toy action figure is the cause for a lot of the body issues women have. If it wasn't for Barbie pushing this actual plastic fucking toy, pushing unrealistic standards, women wouldn't. It's like, shut the fuck up. Sorry for coming off aggressive. It's like, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And even my friends, as we were watching the movie, were like, I've had He-Man toys, I've had G.I. Joe toys, I've read comic books my entire life, and not once did I look at any of those things and go, man, I'll never be like Superman. It's like, sure, I guess it influenced a lot of the way men take care of themselves, but like when the whole bodybuilding aesthetic that became all the rave in recent times. But the thing is, it's like, it was more of a sense of empowerment for men when they would look at these super chiseled, cool looking guys, And even then, a lot of the time, I was not enough of an idiot to think that these things were representative of the real world. Like, I knew Superman was Superman. Like, he he's essentially a god. You know, like trying to be like him would be kind of stupid. You know, but whatever. That's a whole other point. Maybe I can make another video about that because I could talk about that for ages. But yeah, that character was very annoying because it was very typical. And you know what's funny, because the way the character's written, they're trying to portray it as if so writers do this thing a lot of the time, and I find it very annoying. They like to have their cake and eat it too. They'll make fun of something and like act like it's a joke, but then they really mean it. So in terms of this character, she's there to poke fun at like you know, the tortured intellectual. You know, she's like a feminist who saw beyond the veil and it shattered her expectations of reality. And you know, she's supposed to be a parody of this. They present it as if, you know, she's just like mean and commercial. But then at the same time, it's very clear that the writer and the people who, you know, would enjoy garbage like that, they agree with this girl. They just know how cringe and stupid it is. So they cannot faithfully believe in it. They have to present it as if it's a joke. A lot of people do this. It's a thing. If I present my true beliefs as a joke, then I have a shield to protect myself from ridicule. This is what people do. I can make a whole video about that as well, to be honest. So Ken goes back to Barbie Land, and when Barbie, the main character Barbie, Margot Robbie Barbie, arrives with the other two, the two real world people, Ken has transformed Barbie Land. He's arrived, and he pretty much told everyone about how man's world works, the real world. And you know, all the Kens are like, holy shit, that's awesome. Let's have brewski beers, and they all become like these masculine stereotypes. And all the women are walking around in like maids outfits and serving the men. And you know, in this scene, right? This is not me making this up. Is if you watch the movie, it shows this. Everyone is presented as being happy, like it's like the new way things work, right? And then, what do you call it? At one point, there's even a Barbie they take, and when they ask her, she's like Nobel Prize winner Barbie, and they ask her, oh, like you're a Nobel Prize winner, like why are you doing this? She's like, Ken showed me the easier way or some bullshit like that. Like, it's easier to not think. And it's funny because in that moment, obviously, they're trying to present it as if, you know, women, like she's letting men think for her. Like, there's a whole subtext here that I'll get into in a few minutes. But it's like, she clearly seems to, she herself is saying she likes life better that way. But anyways, you know, our Barbie is horrified. She's mortified, and they managed to, they describe it as brainwashing. Because, like, they have this, like, really goofy explanation that I'm going to get into in a few minutes. They're like, oh, I get it now. That's one of the characters says. It was really stupid. She's like, it's like when Native Americans were exposed to smallpox or whatever. I think she literally said those words. Their minds had no defense for the patriarchal thinking. So they just, you know, melded and were brainwashed immediately, which is really fucking stupid, but whatever, right? So that's what they say. And like, before I get to what makes no sense about that in particular, let's talk about what they were doing here. So the women serving the men, and the men being super masculine or whatever, and all that kind of stuff. Like, even Ken, it's presented as if he's doing this because he's never been shown any sign of respect, and he's been demasculated his entire life. And when he goes to man's world, he experiences how men are treated there, and it makes him think, oh, I'm deserving of respect. So he goes back and tells the other Kens and the Barbies about this, and they love it. And the thing is, they're clearly presenting here, again, but if you ask them about this, these kind of people are never clear about their messages. Another thing with people who are ideologues, but specifically ideologues who think they're funny, is, okay, so first layer, you hide what you truly believe behind humor. This is like a shield that allows it to not be ridiculed, because then you can just pretend it was a joke and the person's taking it too seriously. Anyone who's dealt with the internet troll will understand that, right? How often people do that shit. But then there's another thing. If you never clarify your message, right? The irony is already one layer of confusion, right? But if you never clarify your message, then no one could fuck, why can't I speak English all of a sudden? No one could adequately ridicule it. Because you can always just say, that's not what I meant, or I didn't mean it that way. I've seen this in real time. But this guy, he wasn't doing it on purpose. He was doing it because he actually didn't know what the fuck he was talking about. So he would like real time adjust his arguments whenever you pointed out something about it that didn't make any sense. So, if you ask them about it, they're going to claim this is not what they meant. You know, it clearly is what they meant. And it's not a fully formed idea anyway. I'll get into that later. So, the women here, or the women serving the men, is clearly meant to represent that, you know, like the housewife idea is just, you know, dumb, brainless women letting men make decisions for them. And they're clearly ridiculing traditionalism and traditional women because that's the enemy of anything. Like, women can only be free if they're what do you call it? If they're I don't know, doing empowered boss babe shit, right? Now one of the reasons why this was really stupid to me because okay, so the idea is the Barbies. So even before the Barbies become these weird sex pots who serve the men, right? They didn't have any depth to their lives, or from what I've seen anyway. They kind of just walked around doing nothing and living in like an eternal paradise. So they had no problems in the first place. And their brains didn't seem to do anything beyond, they didn't think about anything serious or with depth. All they did was, they live in Barbie land. They didn't even drink things. Like, they had empty cups that they would go like this. And it's like they were in a fake world. Okay? Like that. So even if you want to take the fact that some of them, it's like, she's Mayor Barbie. She doesn't do anything. None of them do anything. So their world is not real. So, you know, I don't know. They would be just as brainless, I guess. In, you know, I don't know. They live in a facsimile of reality. These kind of movies, though, you can't really think too deeply about them because, like I said, the ideas are not even fully formed to think about. And then the contrast here is when we see the real world, all the women there are apparently unhappy. So it's like, okay, your belief apparently is that the whole boss babe thing is the true route to happiness, I guess, for women, or empowerment. But the women who were in Barbie Land were happier until they encountered. Well, even the main character is happier until she encounters the depression of that real world that real women deal with, right? So again, that part made no sense to me. But then it starts to fall apart even more because, like I said, once I saw the movie and I was talking with my friends about it, it's like the whole premise here is that that Ken goes there and he brainwashes them, right? Ken did not do any force. He did not force anyone to do anything. He literally just showed up, told them about man's world or whatever, the real world, and they just fully accepted it and said, that's awesome, let's do that, right? So like if you try to see a subtext here or try to envision a message, which there was no message in this movie, but if you're very dumb, you can glean like a superficial empowerment message from it and feel really good about yourself for about like 2 seconds before the real world comes back and you're back to being I'm talking about the kind of people who would like messaging like this, before you're back to being an unhappy, miserable person who doesn't want to make any meaningful change in your life to rectify your unhappiness. Even if you try to see a subtext in this movie, the only subtext I could see is women are dumb and men can convince them of anything. And they will be happy, or apparently according to the movie, doing what men tell them to do. But then other women will convince them that they are not happy and make them go back to doing what they were doing before. And I'm not even like, this is not even me trying, this is literally what the movie is saying. Because these women had all these positions. There's a fucking Nobel Prize winner, like a fucking physicist, and Ken apparently convinces her that she should be walking around in a maid outfit in 2 seconds. It's like, what are you trying to say here? What's the message? I don't understand. So really dumb. Like I said, very hard to take the movie seriously at this point, because I'm like, and it's funny because I'm looking around all the other women over there. They love this shit. They're like cheering, like, ooh yeah, this is awesome. And I'm sitting there just like, oh my god. It felt like I was having a fucking migraine because of how stupid that final act was. And it just kept dragging and dragging and dragging. But some more good things about the movie. This is what saves the movie. Ken is fucking awesome. Ken is a really funny character, really likable, and especially when he becomes sexist, right? And this is the part where you can glean some good messages from this movie. So one of the primary plots of the movie, and this is why to my friends I said Barbie is more like Barbie is not even about Barbie. Barbie is the least important character in this movie. She does absolutely nothing. She goes to the real world, tries to fix a problem, doesn't fix problem, comes back to Barbie world, and she's just kind of there doing what other people tell her to do. And then at the end of the movie, she leaves Barbie world for literally no reason. She's just like, I don't know what I am, and then she like leaves for no fucking reason and goes to the real world. And I don't understand. Like there's no hero's journey here. I don't know what meaningful change she had, because I just don't understand what evolution made her go from point A to point B. She kind of just is just there being moved around like a real Barbie. Which, again, if this is intentional, that can be seen as some good writing. But if we're talking about like characterization-wise, it's really bad and really stupid, right? But Ken, on the other hand, he goes through a whole evolution as a person. He's unhappy because Barbie ignores him and treats him like a secondary character. She's not into him, right? And then he goes to the real world, discovers that men can have respect, and then he comes back to Barbie world and he reshapes it into his kingdom by simply telling other people about how the world works and the other world works, and they all think it's awesome. And Ryan Gosling is such a great actor; it's probably why the character works so well. And like the subtext you can see here is that as a man, many men spend all their time thinking about how to get women, thinking about how to please women, thinking about how to appease women. Their everything is about women. Like I've had friends. I remember one time, I can tell two separate stories about this. I had friends who like, whenever I would invite them anywhere, their first question would be, "Where the hoes at?" And I was like, dude, can we like not do any? Can we do something without worrying about women? Can we just like chill and enjoy each other's company? His whole life is about trying to prove himself as a Ken to this Barbie, which is a huge point in the movie where Barbie explains to him that he can just be Ken, that he does not have to be Ken with Barbie, he can just be Ken. And many men don't understand that they can just exist and be themselves as a man, right? And like another message there, it's like, there's nothing wrong with being masculine, or at least this is what I would, I'll get to that later. Another message here is that trying to be masculine is dumb. And I can say that's good. There's no need for you to try to be masculine. You are a man. There are natural traits within you that veer towards masculinity. All you have to do is exist in a natural state and not do things that are degenerate, and you will be a man. But then another really good man, I'm like sweating like a freaking pig in heat here. But another good theme in the film that I liked is there's nothing wrong, or this is something you get because clearly Ken and his kingdom are presented as the worst thing possible, right? And the fact that I enjoyed it and many of my other friends thought Ken and his kingdom was awesome is definitely going to be cited as a ooh, incel saw the Barbie movie and they missed no point. And it's like, there was no fucking point, you stupid motherfuckers. It was very very philosophy chic of them, like very very surface navel gazing philosophy that had no meaning or depth to it. Like if you try to break down Barbie, and the funny thing is I guarantee I can find some fucking article in the Mary Sue saying the same thing I'm saying, that at the end of the day Barbie accomplishes nothing and says nothing because it does not say anything. But if you're having issues as a man, because many men do suffer from this problem of alienation and feeling worthless, right? This is where you can see messages in the movie and it might speak to you. But even then, you can argue that might be surface level as well. But the thing is, the movie's idea that there's nothing. Me and my friends saw nothing wrong with his kendom, and I was saying, this shows that there's nothing wrong with being yourself, with being a man. There are traits they call toxic masculinity that aren't toxic at all. They're just masculine traits. Because the same traits that are called toxic in men are the traits that will often be praised in them. And you'll see two types of content. It's like they want to have their cake and eat it too, like I said. It's like, okay, we're going to make jokes and act like this is the worst thing ever, but then we're also going to make stuff about how we like this kind of behavior. And this is a part of the movie, part of the review I forgot to add. So I just wanted to add this in real quick. The other thing about the Barbie movie that's so awesome is, like I said, Barbie's barely a character in the movie. It's not even about her. It sucks. But the entire movie, Ken is kind of beefing with another Ken over Barbie. He likes Barbie. He wants her to notice him, but she's giving this other Ken attention. Shang-Chi plays this Ken. Sam Liu. That's his fucking name. And they're beefing with each other, and they're so mad. But really, deep down, these guys want to be friends. Like, you can see they like each other, or at least they're envious of each other. And I remember saying to one of my friends, that saying that you have no enemies is really good, because it's like people will envy you because they want to be you. And truthfully, if you look at it on a deeper level, they want to be friends with you, but it's like they don't know how to because they're in their own way. Their envy is stopping them. So it's kind of like that. In the movie, that's what's happening. These two guys want to be friends, but they're stopped by their envy, but by the end of the movie, they are like good friends. They become like best friends. So I was like, oh, this isn't a movie about Barbie. This is really a tale of two Kens. Anyways, that's all I gotta say.